Development Committee meeting, um, joined by my colleagues Monica Rodriguez and Joe Busciano.
So funny over there, Monica.
In living color here, both of you. Both of you.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Holding,
sir.
holding
We
you,
are.
holding you away. So let's get this show on the road. We'll call the meeting to order. Mr. Clerk, what's first
The first item
for us?
A verbal report from the Economic and Workforce Development Department relative to an update on opportunity zones. But just to let you know, we do not have any speaker cards for
No
any of our
speaker
items
cards?
at the moment.
Close it. Close it.
Last call.
And general.
Okay, we'll close the comment for multiple agenda items and for the general items as well. Mr. Clerk, what else? Or
And
what
would
next?
you like to take some of the items on consent at this point?
Yes, I think we shall. We're going to continue item 4. That's no objection from my esteemed colleagues. And I propose that we take items 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13.
Move the items.
Hold on.
And for item number 12, we do have a technical correction where we would like to approve the revised city clerk report dated September 9, 2019.
Okay.
So that would be the only change. Other than
All right, so
all the
that
rest-
will, with the exception of that change, other items will be on consent. There's no objection, members. Thank you for your cooperation. Next item, please.
So then that's back to item number 1, which is a verbal report from the Economic and Workforce Development Department relative to an update on opportunity zones.
Back at it. We know these opportunity zones are an exciting opportunity. We want to make sure that our citizens and our businesses benefit from them. It's not quite clear yet if that's going to be the case, but we know that with your help, that will be the case. And so some of you may have read the article in the paper this morning about redevelopment. Did anybody see that editorial about the need to bring back redevelopment? And there was some passing reference to a variety of the things that we're doing and some things we're going to be talking about today. But even the Times recognize the fact that we need to have some more robust tools in the box and suggested that redevelopment needed to find its way back in. So with that, why don't we take the first item,
Sure.
please?
It's Jackie Rodriguez with the WDD Economic and Workforce Development Department. I'm going to give you a brief overview of opportunity zones. Some of this you might have heard before, so I'm going to go through some of these slides a little bit quickly and then dive into what is going on at the federal level, at the state level, and here at the city level.
Okay.
So they were established in 2017, Tax Cuts and Job Acts to spur long-term private sector investments in low-income urban rural areas nationwide. There was a whole process of how they were vetted. Each of the low-income census tracts, the states were able to nominate 25% of them to be designated as opportunity zones. The city of Los Angeles was fortunate enough to get 193 of the opportunity zones in the city. Nationwide, there was 8,762. 60%, I'm going to read through some of these, not highlight on all of them. 60% of the average family income in the OZ census tracts relative to the area median income. 24 million current jobs are designated in the tracts, in the OZ tracts. This is the map of the opportunity zones in the city of Los Angeles. They are clustered in some areas. There are areas throughout the city of Los Angeles, however. We do have a breakdown of the number of zones per district and also what are shared. Some of the census tracts do cross some of our council districts, so some of them are shared. But
So shared means that maybe 2 or 3 districts included
yes,
in the area? Okay.
there might be like 2, usually it's only 2. that are included in one of the census tracts. So at the federal level, one of the things that has been done for HUD, they are trying to streamline the application process, the underwriting process, for some of the multi-home projects that are in the opportunity zones. That's one of the latest things that they're working on. And
Wait, I'm confused. So they're expanding these zones now for additional?
not expanding it. They're
what's-
offering an incentive for people who are creating multifamily homes in the
In
opportunity
those
zone.
zones, okay.
They're kind of streamlining the underwriting process
For housing only or for any kinds of
for
projects?
housing only.
Okay.
The state is considering limiting the conformance to green investments and affordable housing. It has not yet been adopted. It's still flexible as to what type of projects were going to be considered green, and if it's only going to be green and affordable housing. For the city, we have developed our website that kind of advertises our opportunity zones. We have also prepared and posted our prospectus on our website. We are working with.
Now, the prospectus identifies certain projects or, I mean,
It identifies all the areas where there are opportunity zones. So each of the council districts that have opportunity zones, those council districts that presented projects are listed on the prospectus.
Okay.
We are also working with our internal ITA to do data analytics of the utilization of the website. So how many people are visiting? We want to optimize the ranking of our webpage. So we will be launching some social media campaigns to see how we can draw in more traffic to the site. The other thing that I'm excited about is we're beta testing a portal where any developer, any person who wants to advertise their property on our website can actually list their property through our EWD Opportunity Zone website. So they're going to be able to upload their description, address, photos, renderings, what their need is, what type of housing, and they're going to be able to list it on our website and be like a marketplace for LA City.
When is that going to begin?
We are beta testing it now. We're hoping by November of this year it will be fully operational. There are still we have cleared some hurdles already as to how to post them and everything else. So we're in the
Okay.
process of doing that.
All right.
We're also developing a database of local opportunity fund managers so that when we have projects that internal city-owned properties that we want to advertise for opportunity zones, we can also send out to our fund managers that register through our website.
And is there any kind of vetting that we're doing, or we're just basically listing them? They're sort of
For
self-qualifying?
those, it's more going to be a mailing list. So those are not going to be listed on the public website. Those are just like a mailing
Internally.
list, internal mailing list. But the external projects, we will do some light vetting of the projects, making sure that it's a real project, making sure it's a real address, that it's in the city, of course, and whatever else we need to do to vet those projects. So we talked about what we're developing the marketplace, the business, highlighting what we have for the city of Los Angeles. Once again, we have 193 zones within 13 council districts. We want to do more community engagement for educating the public of what opportunity zones are, what type of projects can be expected through the actual opportunity zones, connecting the fund managers and coordinating all of the incentives. Later on, you will be hearing of different incentives that we have coming to the city that might help with the opportunity zone projects and developers of those projects. And, the objective still remains to support economic prosperity among LA City residents, businesses, and communities. Yeah. Any questions?
Okay, well, thank you. Again, members, you recall we asked for an update, periodic update, so we can kind of track the development of this program in our city And I think we're making some progress, at least in putting the infrastructure in place so that we can better promote, better identify and promote these projects. What kind of inquiries have you received from businesses wanting to locate in the Opportunity Zone? Just random calls or?
We're getting different calls. So some of them are more of like private businesses. How do I get a business? How do I get an opportunity fund to invest in my business? So we kind of, go
What do you
through
tell
the
them?
process. It depends on what they're looking for. So one of the things, if they want to actually have like working capital, a lot of the times businesses the calls that we get are, I want to access opportunity funds. Like,
Right.
how can I go? Where do I go in the city to get those funds?
Right.
So it's more of an educational tool of, no, the city does not have those funds directly. I can't just write you a check, but you can go through an opportunity fund manager. Well, where are they located? And then guide them to either the state website that has some of them, or through other companies that can have them. Well, how does it work? Well, can they do I have to sell my business to them? Well, no, you can enter into a partnership. So it's depending on the questions that they have.
So do you handle those calls, or we refer them to someone else in EWDD?
I handle most of those calls.
So if they say Opportunity Zone, then they switch to you.
Yes, to me or to our assistant general manager as well.
Okay. How many, I guess, projects are in our website now from the various council offices? I mean, we got a dozen, we got one of each, we got 50, we got 100. I'm just kind of curious, what's the scope of?
I wish I could tell you
Traffic
we
so
had
far.
193. And
Yeah.
no, we have anywhere from 5 to 6. We are posting more projects.
You had 5 to 6 last time we chatted.
I understand that.
Hasn't changed much in the last month, two?
No, we are still looking for some. There are 2 more projects that are coming in from CD15, actually, that we're going to be posting soon as those are available.
So council officers just have not been ready to list them, or you think they just don't exist, or why only 5?
No, I think the more education that goes out there about what type of projects we're looking for, it's going to pick up the pace. And we also, once we have the marketplace, where I call it a marketplace, but it's not really a marketplace. Once we have the website where we can advertise projects, that's going to also increase the number of projects that are listed.
Have you had a chance to see what the experience has been in some of our neighboring cities or other cities in California that
There is, I'm not sure.
San
how many
Diego, San
projects,
Francisco?
Not sure how many projects they have in other jurisdictions. Sometimes they don't have the same number of opportunity zones. So, for example, there's some areas that have 5 zones. Yes, they list maybe 5, 10 different projects
Right.
because they have very little
Right.
number of zones. Our zones are very vast, so it's hard to list them as the city.
Okay. Members, any questions?
If I can.
Mr. Joe?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for the presentation. We're on our way.
Yes.
And you've heard me on some frustrations we have. We've been a little bit behind the ball on this, but I'm really pleased with the progress. The website, I'm on it right now. I want to thank Sam Hughes. We had a Watts South Los Angeles Opportunity Zone seminar with our partners at the federal government. And I heard loud and clear, Mr. Chair, that they want more projects. They're waiting on us to get them more projects. So I know the partnership here is alive and well. I'm pleased that the 550 South Palos Verdes project in downtown San Pedro is one of the first in the city through a refinance and working with, they utilize this opportunity zone as an investment tool to refinance that project, and others are coming online along the Pacific Corridor in downtown San Pedro. So I want to thank the team, the ongoing work that's being done. I agree, Mr. Chair, we ought to seek more of these projects. And what I also learned from and I was there with our Congress member, Nanette Berrigan, I learned that some opportunities don't also have a stigma of displacement, of gentrification, and which are righteous concerns. But I believe we can balance both out by bringing in investment and economic development to disadvantaged communities and it can work out, and it will work out. On a national level, as you know, my colleagues on the committee, this is municipalities around the country are taking advantage of this. And National League of Cities have been in the forefront of helping promote the opportunity zones around the country. There's a lot of interest, and we're hoping to take advantage of this investment coming into our city. I do know that we have another opportunity zone seminar in the harbor area in Wilmington coming
That'll
up,
be
so
attending.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Who's organizing that, Mr. Biscayne?
It's through our Congress member's office, my office, EWDD,
Oh,
and
good.
HUD.
Okay,
It's a good partnership
Yeah.
with the federal government HUD on the housing piece.
okay, great.
I do on your website, leading economic institutions, if I can just direct your staff to that website. In the harbor area, if you could include Alta-Sea, which is home with the Southern California Institute of Marine Institute, CMI, if you can add that as a part of the leading economic institutions, just want to be able to put that on the map when the folks are looking at this website. We can leverage the
course.
Alta-Sea in this investment opportunity.
Good. Thank you. Councilwoman?
No, I'm just always happy to hear more progress. I'm very interested in the beta test results for posting some of the other privately owned opportunities that are going to be there so that we could actually make more effective leverage. I know in my district I'm limited in some of those options, but capitalizing on some of the privately owned opportunities are going to be very beneficial for my district. So I know that's an important part of the beta test that I think will be fruitful for my district.
And we'll be reaching out to all of the council offices with like a blurb that they can hopefully include in their newsletters and our websites, directing them back to where they can post projects. So we'll have a social media campaign around that.
So
that
do you estimate before the end of the year we should be able to have that?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the report, for your efforts in this area. We're not going to take any action today, but we do want you to come back in a couple, 3 months, just got to give us an update on where we are and how we can make sure that our communities are benefiting. I know that there was some discussion of some rule changes talking about impacts of gentrification and some other issues, some concerns about how these opportunity zones are really impacting our communities and that they are impacting communities in need. I know that we submitted some testimony suggesting that there'd be a little closer rein in. Has anything come of those comments?
Not as of yet. So the
Rule changes?
HUD and some. I haven't looked at the final regs. I'm not sure if they're out yet, but I think that along the lines of how we can assist some of that narrative is going out to the community and actually talking to them about what is the opportunity zone, what are the advantages and opportunities, for a better term, that are available to make sure that all of the communities are prospering in Los Angeles.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks for the report. We'll receive and file that.
Okay.
Members, move on to the next item, Mr. Clerk.
Item number 2 is a report from the Economic and Workforce Development Department relative to the establishment of a Jobs and Economic Development Initiative, otherwise known as Jedi Zones policy and program in the city. This on August 28, 2019, the Ad Hoc Committee on Comprehensive Job Creation Plan considered this item and approved it as amended. It's also referred to the Budget and Finance Committee.
Okay, well, another tool in the toolbox, as we say. Why don't we have a verbal report, and I'm sure there'll be some questions.
Good afternoon, John Reamer, the Interim General Manager of the Economic Workforce Development Department. Pleased to be here this afternoon, council member and committee. I'm joined with Daisy Hernandez to my right, your left, and Sam Hughes. We're excited about, and all has been said, quite frankly, from the various council members here, this is another tool. And the notion of jobs and economic development incentive, what Jedi attempts to do is build upon some of the many tools that currently exist. We took that word and turned it into an acronym from the standpoint of what we believe Jedi will accomplish. It will certainly aid us in transforming many of our communities by providing one of many options. We've spoken already of the Opportunity Zone. We are aware of Promise Zones. This is another tool that we have. It will provide opportunity in that it begins with the J word, jobs. And that is sorely needed in many areas of our community to make sure that men and women not just have a job, but access to a career path. And then lastly, with respect to tools, it enables us to leverage the things that we bring to the table, not just from the business standpoint, but also from policymakers. And so we're excited about this. Jedi is going to be that tool, to abuse the word, if you will, that allows us to attract businesses to come to those neighborhoods that right now are underserved as it relates to economic development. We have several criteria that are available for us to use to determine where a Jedi Zone will be placed. One of which is wherever there's an opportunity zone, has already been established and discussed. We have some 193 in the city, where there's a promise zone, of which we have 2. And then we have criteria in case there is no opportunity or promise zone that we can draw from that helps us identify parameters where a Jedi Zone can still be placed. So the goal here is to capitalize on that which exists and then expand that where we can, so as to incentivize economic development in those areas of the city that once again has been lacking. This does come with a price tag, however. We see this as an investment. The price tag currently has been presented as $1.5 million. And what that does is it enables 2 key departments, planning and building and safety, to respond to a desire to expedite and reduce fee impact to developers. And it also carries with it a plan to create a bench of expediters to help, if you will, walk businesses through the process. We've had several discussions regarding why would you want to do that, where we already have city employees that can do that. And I certainly would agree with that, and we can have a deeper conversation on that. But the one thing that I would bring to the community is that I'm believing this can and should take off. And in doing so, the demand will be quite heavy and quite high. Having access to a bench of individuals that can assist in that before we ramp up our team is strategically important for us. So it's not to say that we won't use our city team. We have a business resource unit that I would argue would be prime to serve as the key point here, to be the ombudspersons to facilitate this. In the other committee, I suggested breaking the city up into quarters internally for us, and we could have a member of our BRU serve in the various quarters, working with the council offices to help facilitate the conversation and explore the opportunities as it relates to what can happen, not just with an opportunity or promise zone, but more importantly, the Jedi Zone. So again, we're excited about this. We believe that it's good, solid, strong policy that is another tool in the toolkit that will enable us to move in the direction that we want to as it relates to economic development.
Any other thoughts? Just, you're here to respond, right? Okay.
They're here to answer any question that you ask.
Let me give you one. We just talked about opportunity zones.
Yes.
Right? Opportunity zone. How can the Jedi Zone supplement and work with opportunity zones? How do they mesh together? How does the Jedi mesh with the other programs we have? What niche does it fill? What makes it different, distinctive, better, more agile?
I'll take it. Thank you, Council Member. The Opportunity Zones, that's a federal incentive. And we certainly appreciate the effort from the administration, more specifically from Treasury, in outlining a roadmap to provide incentive to those that are otherwise subject to a fairly stiff capital gains tax. and that's about deferring taxes. And that's great for those with federal tax exposure. What this program proposes is an incentive on a local level. And really, it, in my mind, serves as an accelerant to what's taking place on the federal side. And so absent this proposal, one might argue that the local municipalities, if you were, are silent in terms of what it can do to help jumpstart activity. And so the proposal before you and the policy attached to the same, I think, evidences the city's intentional strategy to help bring about sustainable development in communities that are otherwise not achieving the same. So as we compare to opportunity zones, I see they're being distinct, but certainly they can come together. Daisy, you want to comment further on that? Or?
Sure. So we're using the opportunity zones as a basis to qualify the Jedi zones. So we are definitely making sure that the programs are working together, that they're compatible, and that we enhance what the incentives that are provided within the opportunity zones as we define the Jedi areas within an opportunity zone to make sure that there's that overlay and that the programs work together.
Okay. How do you see these zones being established? I know there's some comment made about what next steps should be, but talk a little bit about how you see these, the report sees these Jedi zones being established, and again, how they coincide with other resources we have.
In the previous committee, there was an addendum that said that this would occur through motions coming from the council offices. I see this as a partnership, however, where we are working with political leaders, the policymakers in the city to, again, identify areas of possibility and opportunity, to abuse that word opportunity. The formal process would be the motion that would come outlining the fact that there is a desire to have the zone, but I'm envisioning relationship building that comes much earlier than that. And again, are working with the council offices to discuss and identify possibilities based on the criteria that we've already established. That's fairly easy, be it an opportunity zone that exists or a promise zone that exists. But then delving into
Would that give a Jedi zone some priority or some advantage, being located in an opportunity zone?
I think it can. I think that it will definitely give us much more latitude and flexibility as it relates to if you don't have one of the previous zones that we alluded to, that still does not mean there's not an opportunity for, as Mr. Hughes alluded to, a local investment through the Jedi Zone. And so we are envisioning a much closer relationship with the council offices to explore opportunities that exist.
How large can these zones be? How many businesses could we serve?
So we're envisioning that at the beginning of the program. This is a new program,
Right.
so we're anticipating though being able to establish or submit proposals to establish up to maybe 5 zones and assisting maybe up about 20 businesses per zone. And again, this is depending again on the demand that we get once we launch the program. This is estimates based on what the data we have right now.
You recommended establishing a bench of consultants rather than hiring staff. Why?
Yeah, again, for peaks. And we don't know what the demand is going to be initially. And I mean, we have one person already identified to work with the Jedi. But to fulfill what I envision, a very strong, healthy partnership and relationship with the council offices, we would need at least 3 more. That won't happen overnight. Right now, we don't have authority for it. So this would be, again, an option and a tool. And even with the 4, if by chance this really just takes off, the bench is a tool that we can access for any given moment, and the obligation of a long-standing relationship with an employee. and I certainly love and support all of our employees. But the reality of it is we certainly don't want to staff based on peaks. So this will give us a tool to address peaks that might come.
Councilwoman Rodriguez?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was just reviewing in terms of the section around the expedited process for permits and the implications of that for the planning department and what conversations have ensued as a result. We do have fees for expedited processes right now. I liken it to HOV lanes, and we've given out so many stickers that it's not any faster than the regular freeway lane. So at what point, I mean, we continue to discuss it, but have we had the practical conversation with what potentially the implications are of now adding another layer of an expedited process, what that will actually look like with the planning department?
And yes, we've actually worked closely with the planning department. We've met with them, sat down and to strategize what would be the best path to provide this incentive. So they're aware. As of right now, they understand that we don't know what the impact will be, what the demand of the program will be, but we have had those conversations, and once we evaluate it and they feel that they need additional resources, it's a conversation that we can have in the future. As of right now, though, they understand what we're proposing, and this is the path I think that would be that's available for us to have for the start of the program.
Because of the $1.5 million, they're not going to get a body out of that.
No.
Right. So that's just in terms of the kind of reality check of these conversations. I just, want to be thoughtful about it because we also have the other competing priorities as it relates to the permitting process for permanent supportive housing, our affordable housing. We keep bumping up a lot of queues and saying, well, these are a priority, and in the end, they're all a priority, but we haven't accelerated anything. And so I'm just, that's always a concern for me when we talk about, I don't want to, it concerns me. I'm tentative about, I don't like making false promises, particularly as it relates to the permitting process, because I recognize what the historic implications of that have been.
Yes.
And I don't want us to have egg on our face to say that we're expediting something that we're not, in fact, getting to. But, I think it's worthwhile of having a more thoughtful dialogue with the planning department about what they might need to help better support that. Given that I think we are looking ahead to another economic recession, I think these are going to be important tools to help us avert more financial devastation in the city of Los Angeles, assuming we can continue to sustain ourselves and the level of economic activity. So I want to make sure that we are looking to broaden the investments that we can in terms of our own city personnel infrastructure to support the success of these types of efforts that will leverage more private sector investment, and I think long-term sustain our economic stability for the region. So I just provide that feedback only because I think it needs to be part of a more thoughtful conversation that we're having, so that we do see the success of these types of tools that we are offering and putting forward to more private investment.
No, your concern is certainly welcome and greatly appreciated. And I don't view it as a note of caution as much as it is we want this to happen, and we don't want anything to get in the way of it being a successful tool. I hear you.
Yeah. It's the Sith Lord of the conversation. So I just want to make sure. I'm sorry, I had to make a Star Wars reference because, you were begging for it. You were begging for it. Anyways, but thank you very much for your work.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Busquiano.
Thank you. And just to piggyback on Ms. Rodriguez's comments and concerns, we have what's before us. Based on what we have before us, how many Jedi Zones do you anticipate forming and managing in the city moving forward? Trying to meet some expectations.
No, that's a great question.
Yeah.
I mean, at a minimum, we could put one on every opportunity zone and overlay that. I'm going to defer now to the partnership that we established with the various council offices and speak to, given the guidelines that we've put in place to establish one, how would it best fit that particular council office? So as much as we could, we don't want to take the lead as much as we want to be a facilitator. Not suggesting that we know more, but just to give insight to the various council offices as it relates to the opportunities that exist. As Daisy alluded to, we're cautiously seeing 5 to 6, and then the number of businesses inside of that. But we can't say right now. We really can't.
Got it.
And so do we temper it? I mean, do we want this to turn into, it's a far reach with respect to an analogy, but, turf replacement? And the demand becomes so great that we create more frustration. Quite frankly, if that happened, that would be an interesting thing, because that would mean we've tapped into something. We have businesses that want to come. And now it's just a matter of the city rising to that occasion. The other reason for the bench and those experts helping facilitate through. So that can be one of the tools that helps to assist, be it planning or building and safety, when the demand is very high. Those individuals that are already familiar with the process, joining alongside of us to move things through the process as seamlessly as possible. But yes, I don't want to mislead and create, as was already alluded, expectations that we can't meet, but we are excited about this opportunity.
Thanks for that, John. Is your team evaluating any additional incentives or inducements for new businesses coming in? For example, we have an emerging tech hub, the blue tech industry, with our marine research campus, as I alluded to earlier, Altasea. There's nothing in this proposal here that seeks to eliminate or reduce gross receipts tax for new businesses or new tech hubs, tech sectors. Keep in mind, again, in CD15, we're surrounded by more business-friendly cities.
Yes.
They can easily go across the street to Western or over the bridge to Long Beach, and I want to prevent that. So what are any other ways that you're looking at to provide incentives or inducements for emerging businesses?
So my response will be, yes, we are. And this is a sound, safe proposal now, notwithstanding a desire to continue to have some interesting, aggressive conversations with all of our partners, including the city attorney's office, as to how far we can go before we run afoul of any type of legal challenges. I hear you loudly and clearly. You're not the first voice that has brought that up. What can we do to be as aggressive as we can to incentivize businesses coming here? And so we're working within the guidelines that we've had, but the conversations continue. I'm envisioning this will be a living document in the sense that we will have latitude to continue to explore, such as what you just raised, and there will be others that will come up that we know nothing about right now, being able to fold those into options to establish the guidelines and the parameters.
Was the reduction or elimination of the gross receipts tax discussed in the preparation of this proposal?
Yes, it was.
It was.
Yes.
Fantastic. John Reamer, ladies and gentlemen.
John Wickham.
Oh, sorry, Wickham. That's you.
The other John.
You guys are like
His younger, more handsome brother.
I know they look alike. But
John Wickham with the Chief Legislative Analyst. I wanted to add to the conversation that with the Jedi Zones, you might be able to leverage other state or federal resources that are coming along. You've talked about the opportunity zones, but the state is now talking about the SB5 program, which would leverage state funding for housing and infrastructure economic development. It's like 50-50 would be the contribution from the SB5 program. With Jedi Zones, you would have a local geographic program where you would be able to take that as one of these incentives that John has been talking about, a new tool, new funding resource. You just approved the SEDS, and I believe the SEDS is another factor that allows you to designate a Jedi Zone. You can use the SEDS as a way to go after federal funding for planning and infrastructure. So the Jedi Zone is actually a local tool, and this may be a new model that cities can use to designate focused geographic areas for economic development, for housing, for infrastructure.
Got it.
focus all of your tools and then bring in leverage resources from other agencies. So this is
Got it.
actually, as John has said, extremely exciting. I think it's only limited by your creativity and the creativity of your communities to find out what you need
Okay.
and to bring those resources in.
So help me understand this, John Wickham. Don't call me Reamer.
You can call me John River. That's,
Anytime,
that's
okay.
the highest compliment I can
Right? Yeah, sure.
So as you've heard me say in this committee, and I know we had a number of you join us down at the waterfront. So with the Jedi Zone, coupled with opportunity zones, and with the addition of an EFID and the creation of innovation district, how do those layers help with the progress and movement of our waterfront efforts?
I think they all work together.
They don't work against each other.
No.
And how do we measure the effectiveness or the success of the Jedi Zone moving forward?
We're going to be looking at job creation. We're going to be looking at business movement and the incentives that we offer, how many that businesses are taking advantage of and are availing themselves of. And I agree with what John just said, that I see them as complementing each other and not competing against one another. One is not going to disqualify you from the other. So by overlaying on top of what the federal government has done, we've in essence positioned ourselves to make our neighborhoods more attractive, because you won't just have a tax break that you might get through a federal program, but you're now also going to have a commitment from local government to move projects forward and assist in that effort. The Opportunity Zone right now doesn't have that. It'll just give you the tax break.
Got it.
But now you overlay the Jedi on top of that, and now it really provides something that, quite frankly, other cities don't have yet. And so, yes, this might be a benchmark where other cities take a look and say, we want to do that also.
We're ready. We're ready. Lastly, if I can, Mr. Chair, I was a little concerned with the amount of the dollars that were allocated to this, a minuscule $1.5 million. What I just heard you say, this is just the ceiling, right? Or the floor, rather. So the 1.5 can be adjusted accordingly and increased, right? Who came up with that 1.5?
We just, it was just an estimate of, we're trying to do our best guess of what we would need to at least get the program started. And we figure this is something to at least get us to the point where we can start implementing the program and then come back and report back and ask for more if we need to.
Okay. There's also a benefit of the development permits of $25,000 per project and $10,000 per project on fee reduction. Is that all part of the 1.5 mil allocation? I still think that's so low in a city of this large. But we go back to, walk me through, help me understand, if we have to raise the allocation, we just go back through the normal legislative process, go to budget and finance, seek more?
Yes.
Okay. It's very conservative numbers, but I would like to beef those up and let businesses know that come now, we have some incentives, take advantage of it. Okay.
Good, thank you. Just as a piggyback, so why is the permit fee reduction only available to by right projects? Is that an internal decision, or is that the?
Yeah, and actually, no, that they're going to be available for all
All?
businesses, yes.
Okay.
The reason why by right would be, it would be to expedite, they're almost like projects that are ready, so that would help us expedite and get the funding out in the community, get the incentive out in the community. So that's why it would be a focus, but it's not a limitation. We're only going to be assisting by right.
Okay. And also, it's clear that these projects could be commercial and or housing, correct? It's not either or it's not one or the other, or is it? Commercial, housing?
It can be both. However, there's a priority for commercial endeavors. This is the Jobs and Economic Development Incentive Zones, and so we're mindful of that. And certainly, if we have competing interests, the thought is that if there's one that's commercial and there's one that's housing, we'll tend to lean towards the commercial endeavor.
Okay.
Kurt, if I can.
Joe?
If I can, Mr. Chair, so council committee members here before you, we all represent disadvantaged communities. So will there be a staffing plan developed to ensure that all regions of the city have adequate attention to this program?
Yes, we can. most certainly.
Yeah, just want to get that commitment, because they're talking about the west side and downtown, Hollywood. Forget about us over here.
Can't forget Pedro.
Well, all
You
of
don't want
us.
to forget Pedro.
Throwing it out there. Which is good for our city, but we also represent these districts that really need to take advantage of this, these incentives.
Right.
Thank you.
Well, yeah, that's why it's exciting that we have so many tools in the box, so that, we're not reliant on only one program. And we do need to figure out how we can leverage limited resources to make good things happen throughout the city. So, members, any other comments at this time? Then we're going to continue this item pending the CAO report, final report. And as always, we look forward to your coming back on a periodic basis, another month or two, kind of giving us an update on where we are and how we can help move it forward. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Clerk, what's next?
The final discussion item on our agenda is item number 5, which is a report from the Chief Legislative Analyst relative to a status update on the citywide comprehensive job creation plan and a Bureau of Contract Administration report relative to the fiscal year 2017-18 local business enterprise local business preference program. On August 28, 2019, the ad hoc Committee on the Comprehensive Job Creation Plan considered this item and approved as amended.
Good afternoon, Clay McCarter, CLA's office. In 2016, Council adopted the Jobs and Business Advancement in Los Angeles Action Plan. The plan presents us a set of 12 strategies, including short and long-term steps to achieve specified goals to better assist businesses and promote job creation in the city. The plan contains 143 recommendations, and as of June, we've completed 81 of those. Some notable recommendations that have been completed include establishment of the Business Response Unit, which provides aid to entrepreneurs navigating through the city's departments, the completion of the Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy, and the Small Business Online Portal. So with that, I'd like to take any questions.
Okay, members, any questions?
Good.
Talk a little bit about the Small Business Commission idea,
Yes, the Small
one of
Business
the recommendations,
Commission-
right?
Yes, so one of the recommendations in the report is to amend how the Small Business Commission is well, not established, but how the members of the commission are appointed. So the change would be that the Small Business Commission members are going to be appointed, 4 of them by the mayor, 3 by the mayor and 4 by the city council. And since council members are appointing these commission members, they would not need to then go before the council for approval, as we would normally do in other commissions. So this is a legislative change at the request of the city attorney to clarify that once the council member appoints the member, then that is the final action, and that would not need to go before the full council.
Okay, all right. Any other questions? Okay, we're going to concur with the ad hoc committee on comprehensive job creation to approve the CLA's recommendations as amended and to note and file the Bureau of Contract Administration report.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, what else before us at this time?
The desk is clear.
Desk is clear. With that, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you.